everybody. Jeff Colson, Junior Hockey Live. Hope you're all having a great night. It's been a few weeks. Christmas break, holiday break, New Year's. Happy New Year's, everybody. Let's get Bloomer on the line, too, and we'll get rolling here. What's up, Bloom?
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
I got to get in the frame there, don't I?
I
There.
like your background and everything. You got some upgrades after the holidays.
Not really. Just switch things around a little bit. It's the only upgrade I have is the fact that I had to replace so much equipment because of my idiotic coffee habit. Um,
You got the
that
Michigan
cup right
helmet in the
there.
background. That's good.
That's the cup. That's the one that spilled off over everything. All right, man. We got a lot to talk about. First of all, did you have a good holiday?
I did. It was simple this year. We typically go to Detroit, visit all my family and things like that, but we stayed home, and that's the second time in 25 years I was able to wake up for Christmas in my own house, in my own bed. So it was nice. How about for you?
25 years old, aren't you? Just 26. Were you kidnapped as a kid?
No, that's how long I've been in Chicago now. 25 years.
Dude, it's a long time.
I know.
What age did you move there?
I was a just at the very end of my freshman year, so I had about 1 month left of my
So
freshman
you
year
were
of high school.
19, huh? At the end of your freshman year?
I was actually 17 my freshman year of college, so I'm young for my grade.
Yeah. How many times
That's
did
just
you
how smart I am.
How many times did you repeat that grade? All right, listen, World Juniors. It's on every. Well, no, Americans don't really follow the World Juniors like the rest of the hockey world does in other countries. And I don't know why. I find it fascinating. I know you find it fascinating, but man, oh man, you got a little about it. You got just about everything you want in a tournament this year at World Juniors. Congratulations, Canada, on top. Good for you. Want to talk a little bit about what you saw? We'll talk about the different leagues and what their production was, and what their influence on the World Juniors were. I think that's important. But another thing that we should talk about is just the fact that holy smokes, uh, upsets, first round
Yeah.
upsets all over the place. That's great for hockey. Nothing
Yes.
worse than especially you watch the women's side, you watch the Olympics, you watch the World Juniors. Inherently, two teams, Canada and
Yep.
U.S. You saw Canada upset in the first round. Who knocked them off the first round? Was it well, I know there's a few upsets. Let me see if I can remember.
Yeah, in the preliminary rounds, I think was it Chechnya? They upset Canada, and Slovenia upset US.
Well, Swiss took down Finland. That was a big win. That
That
was
was a
that
big
three
one
two in the
too.
first round, overtime. Then Chechnya just ragdolled Canada. I think it was
Right.
6-2, 7-2 final score on that one. And then I know the other game I think was Slovakia rocked the U.S. like 6-2, 6-3, something like that. So that's great for hockey. You get these
Yep.
countries that people are writing off before the tournament even starts, and they're knocking off the big boys. And those three programs are your big boys:
Yep.
U.S., Canada, Finland. That's where it's at in junior hockey right now. So I thought it made it extremely exciting. I thought it made it really good entertainment and good value as far as what you're watching. But the emergence. If you didn't hear the name before and you didn't know of the player because he plays in the WHL, most Americans don't see this kid. Most Americans don't know about this kid because he's not through the U.S. development program. He's not playing D1 college. He's playing up in the major juniors in Canada, and he's playing way out there. Okay, he's in Regina, and man, Connor Bedard. Can you? I mean, this guy, I believe, set or tied more records than any other player. Is that true?
I don't know if he set or tied more records, but he was like up for conquering some of the records that have been established for, I mean, a long period of time. You got Eberle's total goals that I think he did surpass Eberle's total goals, or at least tied it. And then Peter Forsberg back in the day for combined points throughout one of the tournaments was at like 31 points or something like that. And Bedard got up to 20 something. So he was close. I mean, he was definitely in the category of best all time for that tournament in a lot of different areas.
So what I thought I'd do is let's just take a couple minutes. Like I said, most Americans have no idea about this player or had little idea about this player before the World Juniors started. So what I thought I'd do is I'd take a little highlight film and just show people a few minutes of Connor Bedard so you can get a taste of him. Now, some of this is from World Juniors. Some of this is from his junior days, the beginning of the season here. So let me get this set up and we'll roll tape on him. And let's see if I can do this right.
Looks good from here.
Awesome. Here we go.
Left circle, shoots and it's blocked. Rebound, scores! Connor Bedard between his legs to tie this one up. Got 2 goals and 2 assists today. Here's Connor Bedard trying to split his way through the defense. A little spinorama and a shot off the goaltender.
He's got 2 tonight. And a steal and a goal for Bedard.
He's still leading though by 2. Bedard to bring him up for Regina. 1-on-2, step by the defenseman, and then at the deke, and he scores! Oh my! Does it get any better than that? Connor Bedard puts on a show.
The right point. Howe blocked it. He's going to try to spring Bedard. Trying to catch him as Poole. Bedard's in alone. He shoots. He scores.
It's to Bedard. Left circle. Fakes the shot. Now he'll take the shot. Scores!
Bedard all over, but big shot, scores!
Now, we could go on all day with those because the clip could go on all night. But, wow, you see special, and then you see Connor Bedard. He's got it, man. It's just fun to watch. Those are all he must have studied you on your men's league moves, right?
I was not a skill guy, I can tell you that.
Just phenomenal. And that's the beauty of these is you get a chance to see some of these guys. And if it's not the going back to the Tkachuks from a few years ago, going back to the Hughes brothers, all the Hughes kids coming up through the system, coming back and watching, Crosby's, Lemieux, you can go to the Shanahans of the world. You get a chance to see them at World Juniors, and these guys are already special. You can see it already, This is just amazing. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I thought it was just an incredible World Juniors, and I know you wanted to talk about the different influences from.
Yeah, before we go on from him, 2 things that I think is most impressive about him is he's not just content being one of the best players on the ice, right? Yep. He's wanting to be one of the best players ever or the best players in the world. So, and he shows it every game, and in every shift, he's like almost the most noticeable player out there. And honestly, there's equal talent. People think that he's just that noticeable because he is so good. They all have skills. You put these guys in practice and they're going to look very similar. It's what he does when he's out there in a game situation, asserting himself in all these different scenarios that makes him that much better.
The one play that you just saw on that highlight reel, he's coming down the middle. He makes a slight move over to the left-hand side. He pulls a player with him. He fades a puck to a guy that's got his back to him, and the player turns around and goes, "Oh, here's the puck." And the player gives it back to him for a give and go. That's Gretzky-like. I mean, I hate to say it because, whoever compares a player to Gretzky, you don't do that very often. But there's very few guys just lay a puck out That's that pass that the quarterback throws that the wide receiver hasn't even made his cut yet. The wide receiver is looking to the right and he makes a fake and then he goes running over to his left or left, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The bottom line is, and then all of a sudden, the receiver turns around, the ball's right there, because 2 seconds before that, the quarterback chucked it up in the air. You just don't see that stuff. I mean, that's masterful. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, the other thing I think for me, is so impressive is he's got an unbelievable shot, and he's a small player. And I think for, a lot of kids or even people, I think that aren't as, trained or technical within hockey, they think you've got to be big and strong in order to have a good shot. And it's all about technique. And he's the perfect example of somebody who's got a small frame. And even when he was a younger kid, now he's starting to, get a little bit more bulky and some size and muscle to him. But even when he was a younger kid, he could wire the puck. And it's all because he practices his shot. And, I'm sure that kid is shooting pucks even now that he's, probably a lot busier with all the things he does. I guarantee you he's still shooting pucks every day and shooting pucks off the ice and things like that, just kind of improving his craft. But, man, he can get it off fast, and it is a BB that he's firing. And that alone is, if you were watching him warming up and you saw him put a puck top corner, you're going to be like, wow, it's special. That shot is special.
I have yet to see him play live. You and I, because of the level we work at, we don't really recruit or try to get players from the major junior leagues, the 3 junior leagues in Canada. We have a real good understanding of North American junior hockey outside of the World Juniors, and outside, I should say, major junior hockey. And so many of these kids came from the major junior ranks on all the squads, but we at the USHL level, at the NAL level, there was significant influence, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let's say hi to Frank. Frank's watching us. Has a grandson playing for the Notre Dame Hounds up in Saskatchewan. Okay,
that's a great program.
Yeah, you go up. You start in Detroit, and you drive north. Once you get past Sault Ste. Marie, you turn left, and then you drive until you cannot drive any further, and you'll get to where he's at. That's a little bit frigid. What I say about Saskatchewan is that's where your tires get square. You park overnight. The tires freeze flat on the bottom. And then for the next hour when you're driving on the highway, when you're up there as a coach trying to watch all these games, you're going ka-thunk, ka-thunk, and then finally they warm up enough where the flat spot goes away. So a little cold up there. Thanks so much, Frank, for coming on. Anybody that's watching right now, if you want to jump in, say hello, please do. You want to say hi to us, love to hear from you. We threw a poll out. Just want to mention junior hockey discussion, junior hockey advisor discussion. We threw a poll out earlier today. Mike and I were just chatting and wanted to see what people would say about a certain topic, and that was about junior camps and pre-draft camps in particular, and what time of day, what time of year, especially what time of week is what we hit on. So I know a lot of you have already responded to that. We're going to try to throw up different questions, weekly, maybe even daily now, just polls to get some interaction, get an idea, and get a little bit of a pulse for what you're looking for and what you think. So anything to get more interactive. Hey, you got a chance to chat here with us tonight. You got questions. We're going to be focusing on the World Juniors, but this is Junior Hockey Live. It's a little bit different than our other podcasts. This one, we're just focusing on teams, players, coaches at the junior level. Our other broadcasts get into more about how you evolve into a junior player. So a little bit different subject tonight. I hope you enjoy it. I'm here for the eye candy. Mike's got all the answers. Mike's got all the information. I just try to look good for the camera and keep us going with the sex appeal. That's my job, sex appeal. Okay. All right. So listen, let me pull up another screen again, Mike, and then let's discuss this. Here is the USHL.com and the World Junior Championship of 35 current or former USHL players. And it breaks it down a little bit. And I figured you'd take the lead on discussing it. I just brought the screen up for some information.
Yeah, if you can blow it up, a little bit further, it's easier for kids, everyone to read. Yep. But you can see a lot, and the bulk of these players are older that are on that U20 team, so they already are kind of on their way out of, junior hockey. But you can see there's quite a few players that, had made their way through the USHL, whether it be from the National Team Development Program or some of these other teams. Chicago Steel, I know, had quite a few representatives on there. Tri-City had a few. But it's good to see, obviously, the development from within that league. There used to be, kind of a story behind the U.S. program only taking the kids that played for the NTTP. And now you can see they are starting to bring some of the USHL kids in and getting them mixed in with the kids that did play for the National Team Development Program. But, some really high-level players, you're looking here at Adam Fantilli. He's going to be probably at worst a top 5 pick in this next draft. At best, probably the second player drafted underneath Connor Bedard. He came through the Chicago Steel program. I know we've talked about him in the past in a previous podcast, but he was one of the difference makers for Canada. And you see, the U.S. program, quite a few guys here, not only from the national program, but like I mentioned, you got Jack Pearl. He's from Fargo, Middlestad. A lot of these guys are just recently out of the USHL, and they're either now playing for their college team, which again, now hopefully some people had watched the World Juniors and, started to like some of these players. And then now it translates to maybe watching them play in college. But, Ufko, I don't know if you watched US play throughout the weekend, but that's a kid that I saw when he was playing for the Chicago Steel. He was an undersized kid. He always skated well. Right. I was so impressed with how he played for Team USA, just the way he's able to maneuver in the offensive blue line and, create opportunities for his forwards or get pucks to the net. I honestly did not know that he would project to be that high level of a player. And, again, we see these kids sometimes when they're 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yep.
And, now you're looking at them where they're 19 and 20, and there's already a significant increase in their development. And sometimes that's maturity. It's, their body's transitioning and whatnot. And some of it is just the development that they've got from whatever program they've been skating in. And if we're going to highlight a couple kids, Ufko to me he was so noticeably better than what I expected him to be when I saw him at 14 or 15 years old, that, it's one of those where it's like, that's awesome. Good to see. Nice job with all the hard work he's put in to be able to do that at the highest level.
If I'm not mistaken on Ufko, let's just use Elite Prospects. I'm going to pull him up here in the background while we're talking about him. UFKO?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I pull up Ufko, let's get him on the screen here so everybody gets a chance to see. We know he was hang on. There we go. I can expand it out there a little so you can get the information on him. So UMass NCAA, he's unsigned Nashville Predators rights. He was a 4th-round pick. Go down and look at his background. This is played U14s at Mid-Fairfield, New North Jersey Avalanche when that was before there was a little bit of a shift. North Jersey Avalanche at the 16 level was a powerhouse. That specific team right there was a powerhouse. 18-19 year, went right to the Steel, then a couple years playing in the NCAA, and just a phenomenal player. So, but
even look at the difference between his first year with the Steel and his second year.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
He had an explosion of points, and it's like, again, he was a little undersized from his frame standpoint. He's still like a smaller player.
Well, remember this kid turns 20 in May, so he's still a 19-year-old, and which means he's an 03. This is his swan song year, or this year or next year. But to look at these numbers, that's great. That's awesome to see what he's doing. But take a look. You talk about the international play, and you talk about players, and where they were. This is an 03, but you hear me talk about this, especially on the other broadcast. The importance of these other tournaments. You can track a lot of these kids. Back to this Brick Invitational. How old are the kids in the Brick? They're 9. They're 9, but this kid played in the Brick. He played in the Quebec tournament, and I believe that year Mid-Fairfield was a really good program. He wasn't putting up numbers there. He played in the All-American Prospects. That's the World Select International, or whatever that's called. I think that's the Philly tournament. Then he's been a part of USA Hockey. It's important to understand that people can say late bloomer all they want, but if you look at the amount of these players in the World Juniors, they can track their roots back to some of these tournaments. They've been playing high-level hockey for a very, very long time. They didn't, I don't believe in late bloomers. I just don't. I'm not making fun of your name. There's no correlation between the two. But you either are a late worker or you're a late grower, okay? And you've heard me say it before, Mike. Scottie Pippen, you'd never know who Scottie Pippen was if he didn't grow a foot, while he was in college. He was the team manager. He grew a foot, okay? Michael Jordan got cut as a sophomore. What people forget to tell you, when he got cut, he was like 5'9". By the time his junior year came around, he was 6'4", 6'5". Big difference between being 5'9" and being super skilled and being 6'5" and being super skilled. There's a good chance we'd have never heard of Michael Jordan, and they played with Dennis Rodman. Once again, here's another guy that grew a foot and went through the community college route because he wasn't a good athlete. He grew really big. I shouldn't say he wasn't a good athlete. He wasn't a good basketball player. And all of a sudden he grew a foot, and then he found out, hey, I can do one thing really good in basketball. Mm-hmm. But my point there is they all were late growers. So you either are a late grower or a late worker. This magical thing where, you figured it out. You figured it out because you work hard at it or you grow. So you can be super skilled all the way up and then grow into a superstar, or you can be a guy that just starts working harder than everybody else and move into that too. So that's the way I see it. I don't know if you agree with me, Mike, or not, but it doesn't matter. I've got the button here. So
yeah, you can mute me. I do agree. I think there's a lot of instances in I don't think I'm sharing the Chicago Steel secret sauce, but you can just track that they're typically going to take a smaller, whether it be in height or even in weight, a smaller player with a ton of skill that a lot of teams overlook, and they'll let them kind of marinate for a while. And then by the time they're ready to play for their team, they're these unbelievable players that you're like, man, how the heck did they keep getting these guys? And it's, they're looking for that projectable talent, and a lot of it is them growing into their bodies.
So once again, I just pulled up Connor. Again, I know we already talked about Bedard, but let's look down here at, some of the things he did in an early age. Once again, what's that tournament for 9-year-olds? The Brick.
The Brick.
There it is. The Quebec Pee Wee International Tournament. That's incredible. You're playing in front of NHL-sized crowds there. He's got the World Selects. He actually played. This is rare. This is rare. You rarely see a kid play 2 years in the Quebec tournament. That's rare. Then he did the World Select Invitational a few times. So these are events that playing in that Brick is special. I think they only bring 6 or 8 teams in by region. Canada and United States by region, and you either make one of those rosters or you don't. So it's pretty prestigious. And the Quebec, if you're playing in the top division of the Quebec tournament, that's just special because that's treated very similar to the way we treat the World Series, the Little League World Series. Major coverage by a network. Real announcers, real color announcers. Interviews with people going on, the whole gamut. That's exactly what happens at the Quebec tournament. It's nationally broadcast in Canada, and it's a lot of fun. If you ever get a chance to go up to it, even if you don't have a kid playing in it, it's an unbelievably great experience if you can get in the doors for the finals. I think I told you the story. When my youngest played in it, we showed up 2 hours earlier thinking, we're parents. They probably have a special section for us because, we made the playoffs. And, we got there, and I'm sitting with 2 NHLers that had kids on the team too, former NHLers. And we're in the very last row of the very top tier. And we squeezed in to get in even into the last row. We're on the cinder blocks in the back row there, So, but if you get a chance, that's incredible, and you have a lot of fun. Before we move on, Mike, let's say hi to a couple people that just popped on. We've got Viper Shark 66 jumped on. I'm going to put this on there because I think that's pretty. Lethbridge Hurricane Scout. Love the show, guys. Good to see that here. Facebook user Amherst Mast here. Good. Once again, depends on where you log in and where you're what feed you're picking us up on. But Facebook user, thanks so much for coming on. You're the anonymous Facebook user. You're like the unknown soldier, okay? But you're there for all of the Facebook users that want to remain anonymous. So appreciate you coming on the show. So do you want to jump into the null side now and look at that too?
Yeah. And just to highlight, I know it was small on the last one that you had, but there were 10 players that are currently playing in the USHL that were playing in the World Juniors. So not all of those guys on the list were current players like we showed. It was more they've moved on, but the USHL did have 10 current players.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's jump on and look at the NAL, North American Hockey League, and let's take a look at what they've got here. So I didn't count the numbers. Let me see if I can get this bigger for us. This is right off the NAHL website, and the article is NAL players taking part in the 2023 World Junior Championship. And they're announcing those players. I'm trying to see what the number is. I'll just have to count them up. You probably already know.
Yeah, it's probably close to 10 also.
Yeah, they got 9 listed. Then the former Amarillo Bulls coach is Dennis Williams is the head coach for Canada.
Yep.
Shreveport former coach Carlos Innes is the coach for Latvia. I actually had a conversation with him on the phone the other day. Good guy. You probably know him too. So yeah, but let's look a little at the names.
Looking at this list, obviously the star of the tournament from a goaltender's perspective was Adam Gagin from Chippewa Steel. He played for Slovakia. He was an absolute stud. It was because of him that Canada and Slovakia had to go to overtime in that semifinal game. So
yeah, let's throw him in and get a little peek at him. Using elite prospects that someday will decide to sponsor us.
I think it's pronounced Gayan.
I'm not sure. Do they give us a little? Sometimes they give you a little cheat code on here. No. So look at this. This is interesting. He's an 04 from Propran, Slovakia. Okay. 6'4", big kid. Big kid. I've seen him play. He is a big kid. But look at this. Chippewa Steel. Now he's with the Green Bay Gamblers. So hopefully he can stay there. I don't see any reason why. Interesting. Look at that. His save percentage is the same in the NAL as it is with the Green Bay Gamblers, 920. And the goals against, he's actually doing better at the USHL level than he is at the Steel level. So that's pretty interesting. And
what was hilarious to me is when you're watching the broadcast, nobody really expected much of him as a goaltender, and then all of a sudden, because of his play, all the commentators were talking about him, and they were always referencing that he played for Green Bay. But yet he's got a Chippewa Steel helmet on. He's got bright green pads and everything on, and they were never giving the Chippewa Steel any credit. And he had played the whole year up until, a couple weeks before the tournament where he did get a call up and was playing for Green Bay. So, shout out to Chippewa for really, that's their guy.
Yeah.
But I can't expect him falling down from the USHL now after that performance, unless
let's hope not.
Some sort of rights and eligibility or how that works. I'm not sure between those two teams, but he was unbelievable.
So just to drop down in his youth area, once again, here's a Slovakian player, Quebec International Tournament at age 12. So it's a common theme, and I don't think enough people understand that, at age 9 and 12, if you're elite, you're elite. Coaches, those are super competitive tournaments. Once again, I've watched that tournament as a parent. I've watched that tournament as a fan. The Brick. Let's talk about the Brick individually here. Go back and pull up the 93. I believe it's the 93 roster. I could be wrong on the year, but one of the early rosters, and I think there's. First of all, they double the amount of players retained at that age level. In other words, there's USA Hockey and Hockey Canada put out numbers that show you how many players they retain from age 16, 18, 21, how many become lifelong hockey players. The vast majority, and I don't have the number in front of me, but it's over 80% of those kids that were playing at 9 years old, high-level competitive kids, were still playing hockey after the age of 18. So that's amazing. The amount of pro players, NHL, draft picks, pros, and D1 players is off the charts coming out of that tournament. So when people say, well, you can't tell, kids grow and they change. Well, not a lot of those elite kids are, some of them will fall off. They get other interests. They get bored. They like something else. Girls come along, cars come along, booze comes along, jobs come along. All those things can detract even an elite level player, in possibly, God forbid, knock on wood, drugs or things like that. But all these other interests come into play. But you set that side aside, set those other things aside, those vices aside, or those necessities like a job. Maybe you have to work at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. I'm talking about the fact that you can pick out kids at 9 years old and you can watch and track them all the way up. And these are they were world elites because those kids playing in the Brick and playing in Quebec, those are stages. You're seeing the best in the world there at both those tournaments, and yet they don't fall off. People say, "Oh, you'll burn out if you start too young." That theory goes out the window when you bring up Tiger Woods, you bring up Serena Williams, you bring up race car drivers that started training, these Formula One drivers, NASCAR drivers that started training in go-karts at age 8, age 6. If you're good, you're good. And, it doesn't, I'm not a believer that you can burn a kid out if you do it right. I just think that there's abilities to do things. I know that I've spent a lot of time on it, but there's correlation there. There's correlation for young parents and young players to see that, yes, you want to be playing in these events. Yes, if you can play in the Brick, go play in the Brick. It means something. If you can make that roster there, the odds are that you're on track. You can do things at a higher level. So, and should I go further into this or should I change?
I think you made your point.
Beat it
you
down.
made your point.
Just left uppercut. Boom. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then it's
the
up to you.
Numbers don't lie, though. So what you're saying is directly, like, you can see the correlation to, what people might perceive as your opinion. It's not. It's what the numbers show. And it's where, if you look at professional hockey players and you did the same thing for each of these hockey players that you're looking at in elite prospects,
Yep.
You're going to see the Brick. You're going to see all these tournaments because, again, they were elite for a long period of time, starting from when they were kids. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? Of course there are.
There's always an exception to a statistic.
Yeah.
There's always an exception. But do you want to be if I'm sitting there and I'm a parent and I've got an 8-year-old kid that's really talented, do I sit down and go, I can map out a direction that the vast majority of players that are successful go this way? Or could I say, you know what? By golly, I'm going to be the exception. We're going to move out in the woods. He's going to skate on a pond by himself. And he's good enough, they will come find him. Because that's that myth that everybody says, if they're good enough, they'll find you. So let me go to that route. Let me go to the less than 1% route, and let's chase that dream that way. It doesn't make sense. You follow the path that seems to work the best. Now, not every family can do that, and not every opportunity is there. And sometimes you got to mix and match your path and change things up. But my only point on this whole thing is statistics don't lie. And you can find a different path, and sometimes you have to take it, but why not take the path that is proven? The Brick has people looking at players already that are D1 guys, that are NHL guys, that are junior guys, and they're taking note of players. And that might not be their first priority. It's not like Edmonton Oilers send out a staff of 5 to write down stats on every kid that's 9 years old at the Brick. But I'll tell you what, if somebody stands out at the Brick, everybody's taking note of them in the hockey world. If somebody really comes along that's just tearing it up, yeah, you're going to get noticed.
That's the first time you end up on a lot of people's radar.
Absolutely. Hey, what else? You got the show. I'm just here for the good looks.
Well, I'll pose the question to you. What was, if you look at the whole World Juniors, the whole, month of hockey that it was, what were some of your takeaways? I had some of my own that I saw that I could kind of encompass the whole weekend, or the whole, event, I guess is the best way to describe it, that I saw from it. But what was yours?
There's several areas. One, of course, Bedard. I mean, it seemed like every time I turned on the TV to either watch something live or to catch up, watch some YouTube highlights, it was him. It was just, he was all over the place. And you watch the games he was in, every time he was on the ice, your eyes just gravitate to see what he's going to do. And it's hard because, watching games on TV, you don't always get the same sense that you would when you see a kid like that live. So that was one. I think that was huge. I'm a huge fan of the upsets. I was really hoping that we'd see a real Cinderella in the finals, and maybe two teams that never make it. It would have been fun to see two teams that usually battle for regulation. Is that how you say? Is it regulation where they got to fight at the bottom there?
Yep.
It'd be nice to see some of those teams keep the streak going, kind of like the 1980 Olympics. But we got a taste of it. We got that first round gave us, everybody was on their heels thinking, oh my gosh, U.S. and Canada, they're going down early in this, and what's wrong here? And you had a lot of pundits out there just pounding away on the fact that all the three big boys are done. So that was fun. I mean, I really did like seeing the upsets, and and the thing I probably questioned the most from this, and this is getting on the technical side, is, do we really go about it to win if you're the U.S.? Are we putting the right people in the right context? Now, if we talk about the coaching staff, those guys are great coaches. They're phenomenal coaches, and I was looking at that and I was thinking, okay, you take the U.S. team here, and I'm pulling up the data as I'm looking at it here. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that roster. It's a matter of flavor on the last 4 or 5 kids, what you like and who you like. But are we putting a coach with those guys that is, sometimes I think that they put coaches in place because they want the coach to get exposure. Sometimes I think that they put these guys in place because they understand juniors. But you're dealing with a little bit of a different. This is like herding cats when you got all these super elite players, and a lot of them have the national development program background. And who the background of the head coach this year, was he a national development coach at one point?
I'm not sure. I know he's coaching college right now. He was Quinnipiac's head coach.
Right. So I mean, you can't fault the level of coaching. It's a great coach. But what would have changed if you have a national development team coach on the bench that's running the show, since the vast majority of your guys came through that funnel? Would that give us a better system or a better, because right now you can't really coach much systems when you do these, all right, we're getting together on a Tuesday, our first game's on Friday.
Right.
Do you really get the best, approach to the game? So I questioned that, and I really watched to see if I could pick up anything on that. It's pretty much straight up hockey when you watch these guys play, and you just hope for a little chemistry here and there. What are your thoughts? I mean, what'd you see?
Yeah, I think my overall thought was, you didn't see a whole lot of defense in certain cases. Now, some teams that, the Latvias and some of the programs that probably weren't considered favorites to win it, they really stressed their defense and things like that. But even when you're watching US, Canada, and things like that, like, they were so loose that, I think if they had more time to practice and things like that, they could have probably tightened it up a bit. And
but then again, maybe your point and my point is this the opposite of what we really needed. Maybe that loose feeling and that lack of defense makes this a better tournament, because they're not,
makes it more exciting.
Right. It makes it a little more exciting.
See blown aassignments. There's 2-on-1s all over the place. There's odd man opportunities. These goalies were kind of hung out to dry in some cases, which is why I think the Slovakia goalie, was so much of a surprise, because he was getting hung out to dry all the time, but coming away with the save. And that was impressive.
Yeah,
and you see the couple games where the U.S. got blown out. That was because they were 100% were going offense. And then next thing you know, there's an odd man break going the other way and it's in their net. And then it was just a road too far to climb. So just the overall sense of the weekend was it was very offensive minded, which was obviously, catered towards the better players, the Connor Bedards and things like that. They could really point out, because of that. But it probably was more exciting to watch, and I don't mind that. But that's definitely something that I saw. The other thing I was focusing in on, especially when U.S. and Canada matched up against each other, is they kind of had a different way of constructing their team. And when I looked, I was talking to some of the people that I coach with, and I just said, here's what I'm going to be looking at heading into this game. The U.S. defense is really well skating players, a little bit smaller, and don't defend as well. But
sometimes they don't defend at all.
But if they have the puck the whole game,
if
they have the puck the whole game, it's not a problem. So, and then when you look at the Canadian defense, with the exception of Brandt Clark, they were all bigger players, taller, a little bit heavier. They didn't
prototypical NHL defensemen.
Yeah,
old school NHL defense, because that new NHL defenseman, the Carlson type or Letang type, they are essentially a pseudo forward out there at any time. They can jump in the play. Makar, guys like that. But I agree. USA Hockey changed a lot when they had Quinn Hughes in the program 3 or 4 years ago. And Quinn Hughes, even at the University of Michigan, there was no reeling that kid in. He lined up as a defenseman. He could literally be in any four corners on the ice. There's a heat map that comes with, there's a program for those that don't know. There's a program called RinkNet that we all use. And one of the things you see on players is the heat map, where their plays are, where they touch the puck the most, where their skating is concentrated, and it kind of gives you an idea on just blotches on the ice of where, for example, if it were me, the heat map would be right in the middle of the bench, and all you would see was a dot right in the middle of the bench, and it'd be gravitating from there. Bloomer, you'd be on the ice, and it'd be showing you all over the place. But when Quinn Hughes played, it was in all four corners. It literally, you could not heat map the kid correctly because he just was everywhere on the ice. He plays in the NHL that way. That's not considered Makar. You just won a Stanley Cup. This kid should not be doing what he's doing, but you never know when he's going to be on the rush and jumping in. It reminds me of the old Soviet system, where it was 5 players, and I just hope that the NHL starts, getting rid of old school, good old boy ways and adds more of that fun to the game. Because when they play that a little bit more open style, but we are not regimented to positions, we're regimented to making a play. And if it's right for me to jump in, one of the things I used to say as a coach all the time, you just absolutely, don't let my rules get in the way of good hockey. I tell my players, okay, here's our system, but don't let me be in the way of making a great play. Meaning, it's pretty simple. I got to tell you a story. Can I tell you a story? Do you have time for a story?
I think you've been telling stories. They just go from one to the next, but continue.
I don't even know what to say on that because this is my first true story of the night. So I'm coaching this team, and I've got this kid. We had a break. We had 2 weeks that we had no games. And we have this break, and we've got one of the best teams we're going to face all year coming up, and they're ranked. They're like number 3 in the nation, and we've got this game coming up, and we're not good. We're not a good team. We've got just average to below average talent on the team. So knowing this game's come up, I decided I want to get this game deep into the third, and if we can stay close deep into the third, maybe we'll have a chance. So I'm not a big dump and change guy, but we went to a dump and change style, and we just hung back, and we ran a middle trap, meaning we kept all 5 players in the middle of the ice, and we just forced everything to the wall. They get the puck in our zone. We manned up and just chipped it out and changed. We really didn't try to 3-2 in the third period. 3-2 in the third period. We're close. We should not have been within 6 goals of this team. It's 3-2 in the third period. I got this kid on the team. His name's Josh. Josh is probably 35, 40 years old now. Josh was lightning fast. He's on the point. They take a slap shot, hits him in a shin pad. Boom, he explodes. He's at their far blue line with the puck, before they're even turning around, getting out of our zone. He's between the red line and the blue line. Guess what Josh does?
Dumps and changes.
He dumps and changes. And that's my fault as a coach. And that's why every single team, I'm telling you, every single team, college team, junior team, I don't care if I'm coaching squirts, girls, boys, whatever, I tell them the same thing. Don't let my dumb system get in the way of your good hockey, because that should have been a goal. We would have rocked the world. That would have been the 80 Olympics all over again. We would have made national news. They'd have been talking about that team for ages. But no, he dumped and changed. I don't know who wanted to kill him more.
One player in your whole career that actually listened to you.
It happened. That's a true story. That's not a made up.
I hope so.
That's not a Don Cherry story. That's factual. And I had an assistant coach grab me and actually was holding me by my jacket and my tie, hold me back because I wanted to go down and scream at him, and he was afraid I was going to kill him. So he's holding me back because he thinks I'm going to attack the kid. I didn't want to attack. I just wanted to just light up his ear a little bit, But the bottom line is, though, the referees actually came over and said, did he really just do that? Like, yeah. So anyway, that's my story. How did that correlate into what the conversation was?
The way you kind of navigate your way through anything is a mystery to us all.
There was a correlation there. It was about system play.
Yeah, we were talking about the U.S. being a little bit different in the way that they put together their D-corps compared to Canada. And my whole point is the way the Canadians were built. They had big defensemen. When I say they can't skate, it's in relation to like how U.S.'s D could skate. They all can skate. Right. They'll probably all be in the NHL.
They're wonderful players, and they're going to be high up level players, but
they're all elite. But their responsibility was to defend and then get the puck up to the forwards. And they had a couple D, like I said, Brandt Clark and Korchinski, who's going to be a good player that Chicago drafted. They've got a little bit more offensive creativity that they can get up into the play and things like that. But the majority of their guys was get it to the playmakers, which was the forwards. Whereas the U.S., their D in some cases were trying to be the playmakers, and that's really difficult to do. And so again, my point was, if the U.S. has the puck for the majority of the game, this style is going to work, and if not, it's going to be very difficult. So when the game first started and the U.S. went up by 2 goals and everything looked like it was great, the U.S. actually was taking control. Taking control of the game.
Says your time's up.
I like how you give me like 30 seconds to speak and you go for about 35 minutes.
That story did not take 35 minutes. I've got it timed. I used to use that when I was doing USA Hockey Talks.
But you have to remember, the story you told was backed by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different comments you made before that it all just bleeded together. So you were actually speaking for 40 minutes now.
Yeah, that's probably true. We'll get better at that.
Yes.
But you got to realize that, I've been doing these podcasts now for several years. It's been a long time since I've been working with, a counterpart. So I got to learn to relegate the mic a little bit.
You got to share.
Distribute.
You got to share.
I got to get in that assist mode versus the goal scoring mode. So I'll get there. Well,
we'll work on it.
If you got any questions, this is your chance to jump on and throw a question out. If you don't, we're going to start wrapping it up for the evening. Mike, where are you heading this weekend, and what are you doing?
I'll be in Detroit this weekend. My 18s and 16s are playing in the NAPHL out of Troy. So actually Troy and Rochester. So I'll kind of be in that area. There's also the Tier 1 version of the NAPHLs in Ann Arbor.
Hello.
Yeah, so I think you're going to be there for that.
Now, what am I going to say? I got to make up another story because I was going to talk about where I was going to be.
I know. So we're going to be close to each other, but hopefully I do not see you this weekend.
I guarantee you will not see me this weekend. And you want to know why? It's a good reason, though. My son is transferring to the University of Michigan, my youngest. And so he will be joining his father, his mother, and his older sister and going to the University of Michigan. So when I'm not in Ann Arbor to scout this weekend, we're going to be looking at the campus. Even though he's been there multiple times, we're going to be looking at it through a different lens, because now he's got to pay attention. He doesn't go, yeah, right, Dad. Well, yeah, sure, that's the building where you did this, or that's the building where you had, because I got stories for him too, But
Yes.
now he's got to listen to him because it makes sense to him. He's going to try to put it all together.
So how different is the campus, though, from when you went there to what it looks like today? Because I know a lot is similar, but there's got to be a lot of change too.
There is, but nothing earth-shattering. I mean, it's still, the major, things are the major things. I mean, obviously, the big house, that's the major, attraction for visitors, for any kind of people that are coming there to see it and to be just fans of the University of Michigan. They're going to go see that, and then the main campus is pretty much the same. They've added a lot of new buildings, and the growth on the outer shell, it's a different university on how people go to school there, though, because when I was there, you lived in a house with 6, 8, 10 other people, right. And there were houses that were 100, 150 years old, now it's all these high end, there's a doorman, there's, you've got your own room, your own bathroom, your own suite, in these high end apartments, these luxury. I mean, seriously, luxury apartments. I'm thinking, how in the world? I mean, I worked, even when I was an athlete in school, I worked my summers, I worked in the spring, and I tried to get money to afford to be there. And these people are coming in and staying. They've probably put in 6 to 10 of these high end luxury apartment complexes on the border of the campus. That's a big difference.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I haven't been to the campus and really even paid attention to that stuff in probably, 5 years or so. But I know when I go to Western Michigan and I kind of look at that, it's like the dorms are completely different, similar to what you were saying about the apartments. They've kind of competed with that, and they always had like a lounge, which was basically a bunch of couches and a ping pong table that right. No rackets for or anything or paddles for, or a pool table that had sticks that looked like an S, right. And that was what the amenities were back when I went there. And now it's like it looks like you're in a sports bar in some cases. It's crazy.
Okay, I had to figure. I got to give you one more story.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So this is my University of Michigan days, and even though I was an athlete, I was a poor athlete, and if I, meaning I didn't have a full scholarship, so I worked as an RA. There was 2 of us that played, major sports there that were RAs, resident advisors. So you got free room and free room and food, and the funny thing about it is you can't eat off the training table. You can't eat the food that the scholarship athletes eat because that's a violation of the NCAA rules. Back when there was actually rules for the NCAA, I don't know if there's any rules left except for buying a hamburger for a kid. Inside joke if you're a Michigan fan. So I'm in the shower, and there's just this huge bang 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 on the door, and it's a couple of the students, and they're like, they're stealing the foosball table, and I'm in a towel. Stark naked, throw a towel on, and I go out and chase these guys down, and a bunch of frat kids stealing a foosball table, and I did a citizen's arrest in the parking lot and held them all on the ground with my finger, not physically, but I was like, everybody on the ground, and they listened to me. I'm standing there dripping wet with a towel wrapped around me, and I got these 5 guys, drunk frat kids, to all lay down on the ground with their hands behind their head and wait for the cops to get there. Guess who got in trouble for that?
You did.
Me. I got fired. Excessive force. I'm not kidding you. They took it out on me that I did never touch the kids. Just screamed at them to get on the ground. and I ended up getting fired. Anyway, that was my only story. Frank's really enjoying this. Frank says that our the banter is good. So I was expecting to hear him say that he was seeing the beauty on my side of the screen, and that was keeping him involved in the show. But he likes the banner too, so that's good.
Yeah. I get a funny dorm story from my experience at school.
Oh, we're out of time.
That I think you'll get a kick out of. So I used to basically, I just roomed in any dorm, right? I didn't have any like friend that I roomed with or anything like that. But I Yeah, I noticed there was a bunch of kids I went to high school with in Detroit before I moved over, and I just didn't realize they were also going to Western Michigan. So I would hang out at their dorm all the time. I almost never even slept in my own dorm. And I was talking to one of my buddies on the phone, and this was back before cell phones or whatever. So I'm literally against the wall talking on the phone, and the smoke alarm was going off like a fire drill. And they constantly were doing these periodically for every month. And in many cases, no one paid attention to them. We didn't go for it or whatever. And this was at like 2:30 in the morning. So I'm on the phone, and it's going off, and it just keeps going off and everything. And my buddy's on the phone being like, do you have to go? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, these things are going off all the time. And he's like, well, it's not turning off. Don't you think you should do something? Like, go. I open the curtain and I look out, and there's flames just shooting up the window. And I was on the 5th floor, and there was flames from like the 1st floor just ripping up the wall. So finally I was like, oh my God. And there was like 6 or 7 other people in the room, because everyone's like playing video games or doing something. And I'm like, guys, look at this. I open it up, and there's literally, I just opened the curtain, and you can see the flames all the way up through the window. So we opened the door, and we're all like trying to leave. And literally the whole hallway is smoked. You're trying to get down the stairs. The whole dorm, the whole 1st, 2nd, all the way up, everything was just burnt to a crisp. So there's like they call it the Bronco Mall, which was like where the McDonald's and all this other stuff was. So we're all meeting there. The RA from that dorm has me included in their roll call because I'm always there. So they do all their roll call and everything. So I thought it was the coolest experience that like this happened. We all got out. No one got hurt. The only downside was I had all my books and everything in that room, and they wouldn't let anyone back in because most of it got charred. And because all those kids actually lived in that dorm, all of their classes got extensions, and the teachers were really cool about it. And I had to be like, I'm not in that dorm, but I was at that dorm, and I don't have any of my stuff. And none of my teachers believed me. They thought I was using it as an excuse. So I had to try to figure out how to do all of my homework and everything with no books or any of that information for about a month, because they wouldn't let you go back in and get any of that stuff.
Okay, 2 things, and this is important. 2 things. 1, although my stories went on for 35 minutes, they didn't feel like 60 minutes. Okay, that's number 1.
To you.
That's number 1. Number 2, you don't get street cred for saying I was from Detroit. Okay, you were a Lakeshore kid. That's Topsiders, and you had your little popped collar on your little logo shirt. Right. You were from the shore, Lakeshore, St. Clair Shores. Okay,
yeah.
No street cred for St. Clair Shores. You know, nobody believes you're from the hood when you got a pop. You probably wore 2 Izods back in the day, and you popped the collar on both of them. I never figured that out, but you know, that whole look, that Grosse Pointe look of wearing 2 Izod shirts on top of each other, different colors, so you could pop the collars on them. So no street cred from Detroit.
True or false? You lived in St. Clair Shores just as I did.
South St. Clair Shores.
But who lived closer to Grosse Pointe, you or I?
Yeah, but I was closer to Detroit too, though.
No.
9 Mile, man.
You were separated by one of the most wealthiest areas in all of Michigan.
Yeah, but don't forget, you know, what do they call the movie? 8 Mile, not 13 Mile. Okay, you were way up there. I was at 9 Mile, man. I'm one mile from that hood.
Yeah. Oh my God. But back in your day, that's the rockin' time of the Detroit, right? The 50s, that was one of the heyday. That was like the hey time for.
Yeah. That was. I worked directly for Henry Ford, the first. Yeah, no.
In the Hudson building.
That's right, in the Hudson building. Helped build Kobo, you know.
Yeah.
All right, we're done being silly. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Once again, we're both in Detroit this weekend. Me coming in from New York, Bloomer coming in from Chicago. We'll be in Bloomer's in Troy, so if you see him, come up and say hi. I will be in Ann Arbor. I don't even know. If I get the cube, I don't even know where I'm at. But I'm in Ann Arbor, so if you see me at the rinks, I'll be glad to sit and chat with you and talk a little hockey. And we'll be on next week, and we'll find some other nonsense in the junior hockey world to talk about live. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone.